President Trump often points out his accomplishments at rallies. He did it just the other day in Las Vegas. Today, he tried the same thing at the United Nations, and the room full of world leaders proved to be a slightly tougher crowd. Take a look.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Well, you just heard the president say he didn't expect the reaction, but then hours later, when asked about the laughter, the president had a different take. He told reporters, unquote, that was meant to get some laughter. The president's now trying to play off the moment as if he was making a joke and wanted them to laugh. You'd think he wouldn't want that. After all, for years, he's been critical of the work on the world stage by his predecessor, using a key phrase over and over.
The world is laughing at us, folks. They're laughing at us, at our stupidity. They laugh at us. They're laughing at us. It's just crazy what's going on. Everybody's laughing at us. They're laughing at us. We don't know what we're doing. They're laughing at us because they think we're stupid. The whole world is laughing at us. They're laughing at this, at what's going on in our country. The world laughs at us, folks. The world laughs at us.
Well, they were certainly laughing today at the UN. Joining us now is strategic analyst and author, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel, thanks so much for being with us. Just on this kind of minor moment of the president being laughed at in front of the UN General Assembly, I'm wondering what you make of it. I'm not sure I've seen that before.
Well, I think it tells you that the nations of the world and their leaders and governments have priced Trump into the strategic marketplace, as it were. They feel like, okay, this is Trump. We know it's going to be bad, but we're going to get through it. And it's pretty grim when the world is indeed laughing at and mocking a U.S. president. But that's where we are, Anderson. And, you know, when I listened to the speech this morning, there is much to worry about. But I have to say that at the end of the day, I was a little bit relieved because, you know, instead of getting the Black Death, we just got influenza.
You were expecting, from what you're saying, you were expecting worse. I mean, the president's message today, it seems to be fairly consistent to what he said last year, obviously not using, you know, Kim Jong-un, calling him Rocket Man. You know, he actually thanked him for what he described as his courage.
Yeah, which was just plain nutty. But, you know, when the U.S. president speaks, it matters. The words matter. And beyond all the braggadocio and the clown show antics, there were two tracks today. One was the immediate problems facing us. And the other, though, was much deeper, and I think a lot of people missed it. When Trump kept going on and on and on about patriotism and sovereignty, words mean different things to different people in different countries and cultures. To us, patriotism, we think defending our country. It's a good thing. Sovereignty. Well, of course we want a sovereign nation with controlled borders. But in much of the world, when Trump says patriotism and sovereignty, they hear nationalism and basically that they're impermeable to blame, that they can get away with whatever they want within their own countries. And you know, there is a line somewhere out there, it's a little fuzzy, between honorable patriotism and rabid nationalism. And when Trump preaches what amounts to extreme nationalism, you're dragging the world back toward the 20th century, back to the 1920s and 30s. Nationalism, extreme nationalism, as opposed to honest patriotism, was the plague that, bursting out of the 19th century, just ravaged the 20th century in tandem with extreme ideologies, communism, Nazism, etc.
And you're saying
he doesn't know this.
Saying that today gives freedom to other countries to make that same argument.
Yeah, I certainly does.
It gives license, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them license, and they hear, again, it's unleashing the demons that the last 7 decades of peace have largely contained, at least in the more economically developed world. And when he talks about sovereignty, again, to us, that means one thing. But to the bad actors around the world, that means I can do whatever I want within my borders. I can kill whoever I want. I can imprison whoever I want. And so again, his speechwriters are mediocre at best. They have no command of language. They don't pay attention to the layered meanings of the words. And he was essentially, as you said, giving license to people to act very, very badly as long as they do it within their own borders. So I was worried about that. And then on the more immediate level of today's problems, Trump he actually has some good impulses, but he shoots himself in both feet immediately. For one example, among many, China. The world is mad at China about its trade cheating, intellectual property theft, bullying, extortionate loans in the third world. Had Trump gone after China first and foremost, he could have had the EU, Australia, Japan, North Korea, Southeast Asia all on our side. Instead, he attacked all of them and then went off on China. And now it's us, Washington versus Beijing, and we don't have allies, and nations need allies.
Colonel Ralph Peters, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Good discussion.